I believed that I was taking a plane to Dubai to be present for my son's most joyous occasion. Rather, I entered the most intricate scam of my life. I was packing wedding gifts and signing gift registration forms, while Lucian was already meeting with real estate brokers to sell my house. It was a phony wedding. There was no bride. He stole my life savings, and everything was a fabrication to get me out of the country. His text message said, "You got played, old man," as though killing his father were just another business deal. However, my bright kid failed to understand that being foolish is not a way to live for 67 years. And there are repercussions when you betray family. Lucian believed he was smarter than me, but he had just enrolled in the priciest course of study he had ever taken. Please let us know in the comments where you are viewing this before we move on to Elias's narrative. Have you ever fully trusted someone just to find out they had ulterior motives? I should have known when the phone rang at 7:30 on a Tuesday morning. You eventually learn to read the signs after 67 years. However, you disregard your instincts when you hear your son's voice, which is full of excitement about his wedding in Dubai. Lucian added, "Dad, I'm sending paperwork across the smoldering international line." Before we go any further, kindly subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comment section below. Dubai customs forms for gifts. You know how strict they are. 3 days later, the FedEx delivery showed up. Thick, formal-looking paperwork. Beneath the travel schedule and customs paperwork, I saw eye-cracking legal jargon. I laid the papers across my kitchen table, which is the same oak I built 40 years ago, and read Lucien's message, which said, "Gift registration form for Dubai Customs. Sign where I've marked with yellow tabs." Everything appeared expertly done. Customs declarations, wedding gift register, and letterhead from the Dubai Ministry. Lucian had considered every possibility. He painstakingly went over each page with me when I phoned him back. The UAE requires advance registration for valuable gifts. Since I'm giving you that antique watch collection as our wedding present, they need your signature authorizing the transfer. Just bureaucracy, Dad. It makes perfect sense. Lucian, who now worked in international business, was aware of these factors. The 3-generation-old watch collection was worth more than my yearly Social Security. They would want documentation, of course. Mrs. Henderson notarized with her customary diligence at the county clerk's office. With pride in my voice, I added, "My son's wedding." "Dubai Elias, how exciting." She efficiently stamped each paper, saying, "He's done real well for himself." Twice. The ensuing weeks felt like prolonged Christmas morning. He's thoughtful, getting paperwork done early. Most people wait until the last minute. I got a haircut, bought new shoes, and ironed my navy suit. Joe used his scissors with experienced accuracy at the barber shop. "Dubai, huh? Your boy made something of himself." "Software engineering," I replied. I packed meticulously the night before I left. Makes more monthly than I made yearly. Still the same kid who helped me in the workshop every Saturday. The collection of watches in their velvet case. Lucian's birth to graduation photo gallery. Customs paperwork is arranged in a manila folder with each signature placed precisely where it is needed. I checked in with confidence at Minneapolis St. Paul International. Upon seeing Dubai on my boarding pass, the gate agent grinned. As I settled into my seat and watched Minnesota vanish under the clouds, I reflected on how delighted Ellen would have been. Business or pleasure. My son's wedding. How wonderful. He's lucky to have you there. Lucian would do great things according to my wife. Although she has been gone for 5 years, I could still feel her presence during times like today, when our son's accomplishments made all of our sacrifices worthwhile. There was a pillow supplied by the flight attendant. 20 hours to Dubai to a wedding that would signal my son's happily ever after to his new life. I closed my eyes, imagining the toast I would make, the pictures we would snap, and the tales I would share with my family back home. I felt as though I had entered another planet when I arrived at Dubai International Airport. Impossibly towering glass and steel voices in languages I had never heard, and air conditioning so cold it felt like Minnesota winters. I clutched my carry-on with those valuable documents and looked around for Lucien's recognizable face. Something felt off when I eventually saw him. My son appeared slimmer and older. His eyes were constantly flitting to his phone, and his grin appeared forced. But what mattered was that he was here. "Dad, you made it." He gave me a hasty, rather robotic hug. "How was the flight?" I looked at his face and said, "Long but worth it to see you, son." There were dark circles beneath his eyes, and I had never seen such a nervous energy. You look tired. Wedding stress. Something like that. With extraordinary haste, he seized my suitcase. Come on, let's get you to the hotel. Traffic's murder here. The journey through Dubai was a haze of shiny skyscrapers and construction cranes. Lucian tapped his phone non-stop and hardly spoke. I made an effort to connect with this stranger, donning my son's face by talking about the city, the wedding arrangements, and anything else. He finally remarked, "The hotel's nice," as we arrived at a glass monolith that likely cost more per night than my Social Security payment each month. "I've got you in a suite. You deserve the best." Lucian took care of check-in in the lavish lobby, which was all marble and gold, while I gawked at the extravagance. Crystal chandeliers, fountains, and employees dressed in outfits more costly than my bridal gown. Lucian's voice was tense as he said, "Dad, about those documents you brought. I need them now. The customs office closes early today, and if we don't file before 5 their time, the whole gift registration gets delayed." Without hesitation, I gave the manila folder. "Of course, son, whatever you need." Too fast for someone merely checking, he flipped through the pages. As he located the power of attorney document I had signed, his hands began to shake a little. "Perfect. This is exactly what they need?" I inquired. "When do I meet Sarah? And when's the ceremony?" "Soon, Dad. Very soon. I just need to run these papers to the customs office. You rest up, order room service, whatever you want. I'll be back in a few hours, and we'll have dinner, talk about everything." Already with his folder tightly gripped, he was backing toward the elevator. "Lucian, wait." "Love you, Dad. Thanks for coming all this way. It means everything." I was alone in a foreign country with a keycard to a place I couldn't afford, and the elevator doors closed on his face. Back home, the suite was bigger than my whole house. Windows from floor to ceiling that looked out on a metropolis that appeared to have been created out of dreams and diamonds. I felt small and out of place as I sat on the leather couch. I was unable to identify the problem. I waited. I hardly touched the lunch I ordered, watched the sun set over the unattainable skyline of Dubai, went directly to voicemail on Lucian's phone. I texted him but got no reply. I was sitting in the same place looking out the same windows 24 hours later when my phone buzzed with a message from my kid. "You got played, old man." I gazed at the display until the text became hazy. "Go over it once more. Once more." Awaiting the explanation, the follow-up, the "just kidding, Dad." Nothing arrived. I gave him a call. The phone was cut off. That's when I got it. I was not at a wedding. I was here because presumably I was destitute, gullible, and expendable. I finally understood what my son truly thought of me. At a place where I couldn't read, the signs didn't know the language, and had just enough money to last maybe 3 more nights in this gilded jail. All I was a signature on a sheet of paper. I gave Lucian 17 phone calls the morning after that text. Every call, "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." Not cut off. Out of service. I had been totally erased by my son. I tried his social media, email, and work. Nothing. A 67-year-old man who couldn't read traffic signs was left in a country after Lucian Creed disappeared. I appeared to be a lost old guy when Ahmed discovered me in the foyer. "Excuse me, sir. I see you sitting here since morning. Is everything all right? Can I help you with something?" His English was clear, friendly, and precise with a Middle Eastern accent. Perhaps 30 in the immaculate uniform of the hotel with a sincere care I hadn't seen since Minnesota. I lied, "I'm fine," and then broke down. "No, I'm not fine at all." Ahmed took a seat on the marble bench next to me. "My name is Ahmed from Guest Services." "What is wrong, sir?" "My son brought me here for his wedding. Now he's gone. Just vanished." Ahmed gave a hesitant nod, his expression showing comprehension. "I'm very sorry. This is a difficult situation. Family problems are hard, especially when you are far from home. I have seen this before with hotel guests. Would you like to call home? International calls are expensive on mobile phone, but hotel can help you make call. At home." Now where was home? On the 3rd ring, Walter Hendricks picked up. "Elias Jesus, I've been trying to reach you for 2 days. I'm in Dubai, Walt, for Lucian's wedding. Something's wrong." "Elias, sit down. There's no wedding. Lucian's startup went belly up 6 months ago. He owes creditors over $400,000. The lobby swayed. "That's impossible. He's successful." "He told you what he needed you to believe. Did you sign any papers recently? Anything legal?" My mouth became parched. "Customs forms, gift registration." Walter was silent for a while. "Ed, I drove by your house this morning. There's a sold sign in the yard." The phone fell out of my grasp. After catching it with ease, Ahmed handed it back to me after speaking softly to Walter in flawless English. "Sir, your friend wants to speak with you again." With trembling hands, I picked up the phone. "Walt, the house sold yesterday. Cash sale. Your signature was on all the paperwork, power of attorney. New owners are moving in next week. Power of attorney, not forms for customs, not registering a gift." While I sat there thinking I was there for my son's delight, I signed legal documents, granting him the right to sell everything I owned. "How much?" "180. 40,000 under market value. Quick sale." "The amount is $180,000. In order to pay off my son's obligations to strangers, my life's work and my father's legacy were sold for less than their true value." After hanging up, I turned to face Ahmed, who had endured my heartbreaking phone call with patience. He murmured softly, "Your son, now fully aware of the circumstances. He is in trouble with money." He was in trouble. Now I am. I experienced something other than shock and sadness for the first time since that devastating text message. It began as a tiny cozy fire in my chest and developed into something more intense and concentrated. "I'm going home," I declared, getting to my feet more erect than I had in the previous 2 days. "And I'm going to teach my son what happens when you steal from the wrong old man." The first sincere smile I'd seen since leaving Minnesota was Ahmed's. "This is good, sir. You have fight in you." Yes, I thought, as I gazed out at the beautiful skyline of Dubai. I definitely possessed the will to fight. Lucian was going to have to learn that lesson the hard way. The following morning, Ahmed discovered me looking at a luggage that I was unable to pack. Clothes for a fictitious wedding pictures of Lucian I had intended to post. Everything felt different. "Sir, there is seat available on flight this afternoon, earlier than your booking." "I can't afford to change it. The fees." When I objected, he raised his hand and said, "Change fee is $800. Hotel will cover this." "This is what we do for guests in difficult situation. You did not deserve this. Your son was wrong." The confirmation was a shock. I was believed by someone. The injustice was noticed by someone. After crossing the Atlantic 20 hours later, I took in the current state of my life. No home, no protection. A son who had referred to me as old man and disappeared. However, there was another rising confidence that this was not the end. Walter, who appeared older than when I had left, waited at baggage claim. "Ed, I'm sorry. I should have seen it coming." "How could you?" "I didn't see it," and I raised him. We arrived at my neighborhood after a quiet drive through Minneapolis. My house was there marked with a gravestone-like bright red sold sign. On the porch, a young couple measured windows. Unaware that they were living in someone else's disaster, the new owners were thrilled about their deal, saying, "Don't stop, keep driving." It felt weird in Walter's spare room. I was now the elderly man with nowhere to go, the charity case. "You can stay as long as needed," Walter instructed. "But Ed, what about Lucian?" The question was that. When your child ruins you, what do you do? "I've been thinking for 20 hours, I said. "Most people would roll over except they got beat, file a police report, and hope for the best." Walter gave a nod. "Most people would. But most people didn't raise Lucian Creed. Don't know how his mind works, what he fears, how he thinks he's always smartest in the room." I felt all of my 67 years when I sat heavily on Walter's recliner. In addition, I felt a cold, calculating anger that I had never felt before. He thinks he outsmarted the old man. Got away clean, probably laughing about how easy it was. "What are you thinking, Ed?" I glanced at my oldest buddy who had supported me during all 15 years of crises, including Ellen's death. "I'm thinking Lucian just made the biggest mistake of his life. He taught me that sometimes people who love you can hurt you most." Walter arched an eyebrow. And sometimes they're the ones who know exactly how to hurt you back." I took out my phone and looked through my contacts. Attorneys, real estate brokers, and former construction colleagues. People who knew a man's word still had value and owed favors. "We're not letting him get away with this, Walt. We're teaching him that stealing from family has consequences." For the first time since he picked me up, Walter grinned. "What do you need?" "Help me find the best fraud attorney in Minneapolis. Then help me show my son that the old man still has a few tricks left." Walter said Tessa Stone, while sipping coffee. "Retired cop turned lawyer. Specializes in fraud, especially family financial abuse. If anyone can help, it's her." I glanced up from my legal pad where I had detailed every detail of Lucian's dishonesty. "You know her? She handled my neighbor's case when his daughter cleaned out his accounts. Got every penny back plus interest. She doesn't lose Ed." A renovated home close to downtown Minneapolis served as Tessa Stone's office. There was a woman who answered her own door, a brass nameplate, and no opulent lobby. Perhaps 55 with a blue suit that conveyed business and gray hair pushed back somewhat. She has a walnut-cracking handshake. "Mr. Creed, Walter told me about your situation." I gave her copies of my folder containing Lucien's paperwork printouts, of Lucien's emails about his successful business, Walter's pictures of the sold sign and bank records proving the house sale. Tessa took careful notes as she read everything again. She looked up at last. "We have a strong case for fraud. Power of attorney obtained through deception, elder financial abuse, interstate wire fraud. Your son could face serious criminal charges." "But," her smile was not a pleasant one, "but I have a better idea." "I'm listening." "Criminal prosecution takes years. Even if convicted, you might never see your money back. Civil suits are expensive, and if he's broke, you'd be suing an empty pocket." Tessa reclined. "But what if we could make him pay you back willingly? He stole from me and called me an old man. Willing isn't in his vocabulary. It would be if he thought it was his only way to avoid prison." A cool, gratifying sensation took hold of my chest. "Go on." "We file criminal charges, but before they're processed, we offer him a deal. Settlement agreement that keeps him out of jail in exchange for full restitution." "How much restitution?" "Not just what he stole, what he owes for the pain, deception, breach of trust. 15% of his gross income for 5 years paid monthly to a fund for fraud victims." I calculated it. That would add up to a substantial sum of money over time if Lucien was earning what he said, more than what he had taken. "And if he refuses, we proceed with criminal charges. Wire fraud across state lines, elder abuse, he's looking at 5 to 10 years federal time." "You think he'll take the deal?" Tessa's smile became sly. "I've been doing this 20 years. Desperate people always think they're smarter than they are right up until they realize they're trapped. Your son will take the deal. I want him to learn something from this, not just pay money and move on. The beauty of this approach is that every month for 5 years when he writes that check, he'll remember exactly what he did to his father. It's not just restitution, it's education." After being silent during the discussion, Walter finally spoke up. "What's this going to cost, Ed?" Tessa collected the documents and said, "Contingency fee. I get 30% of whatever we recover. Nothing if we don't succeed. Mr. Creed, your son made 2 mistakes. First, he underestimated you. Second, he overestimated himself. When do we start?" She stood and held out her hand, saying, "I'll have the criminal complaint ready by Friday. Settlement offer goes out Monday. Your son is about to learn that actions have consequences." I felt something I hadn't felt since Dubai Hope as I left that office. For something more significant than simply receiving my money back. Fairness, true justice. Lucien was also unaware of what was about to happen. 3 days later, Tessa called. "The criminal complaint is filed. Now we build the trap." The war room had become her office. Every surface was covered in legal documents. Court databases were shown on computer screens, and a whiteboard marked out what she referred to as pressure points. Tessa pulled out draft documents and remarked, "Your son is going to get the worst news of his life. Federal fraud charges, elder abuse, wire fraud across state lines. Maximum penalty 15 years, minimum 5. I looked over the criminal complaint. Lucien's actions appeared even more cunning and vicious when they were explained in legalese. "But then," Tessa went on, "we offer him salvation just when he believes his life is over." She gave me another document that was filled with legalese, but it had one part that was highlighted in yellow. Defendant agrees to pay 15% of gross annual income for 60 consecutive months to the Fraud Victim Restitution Fund. I remarked, "He'll think this is mercy." "Exactly. Compared to federal prison, paying money will seem like winning the lottery." Through long-time common contacts in the computer sector, Walter had been investigating Lucien's current circumstances. For my son, the news wasn't good. He's desperate, Ed. Living in a studio apartment in Seattle, working freelance programming jobs. His startup partners are suing him personally. Creditors are circling. Walter glanced up from his computer. "He's exactly where we need him. Broke, scared, and running out of options." Tessa gave a nod of approval. "Desperation makes people stupid. He'll see our offer as his only lifeline." We honed every aspect throughout the course of the following week. Although it wasn't what Lucien would have expected, the settlement agreement appeared to be valid. Tessa had written it in such a way that once signed, it became a legally binding agreement with harsh penalties for noncompliance. "The beautiful part," Tessa said, "is that he'll think he's getting away with something, avoiding prison, keeping his record clean, just paying some money over time. But he won't realize how much money until it's too late," I continued. 15% of gross income means before taxes, before any deductions. If he gets back on his feet financially, he'll be paying us even more. And if he tries to hide income or default, we can reactivate the criminal charges immediately. The psychology was flawless. Lucian might mistakenly believe that the rope of a drowning man was a noose. Tessa remarked, "There's one more element," and produced the last document. He has to admit guilt in writing as part of the agreement. Full confession of what he did, how he deceived you, acknowledgement of the harm caused. Why? Because every month for 5 years when he writes that check, he'll remember signing that confession. He'll remember what he did to his father. Tessa's assistant delivered the item to Lucian's Seattle address by hand on Friday afternoon. One package contains criminal charges, while another has a settlement offer. I inquired how long before he responds. 48 hours maximum, maybe less. When people are drowning, they grab the first rope thrown to them. Walter and I watched the sunset that night while sitting on his patio. I felt something close to tranquility for the first time in weeks. Walter questioned, "You think this will work?" I think Lucian is about to learn that his old man isn't as stupid as he thought. My phone was waiting between us on the table. My kid was reading the worst news he had ever seen, followed by what he believed to be his salvation somewhere in Seattle. He was going to sign his own punishment, but he was unaware of it. They laid the trap. We now watched to see if he would enter it. 36 hours after Tessa mailed the box, the call came. Not to me, but to her office. "Mr. Creed," Tessa said, with a satisfied smile as she hung up. "Your son wants to discuss the settlement offer. Seems very eager to avoid criminal prosecution." What did he say? That he's ready to make things right and move on. Classic language from someone who thinks he's getting away with it. Thursday afternoon, Tessa's conference room. I arrived early, sitting in the same seat where I'd learned her strategy 3 weeks earlier. Now I would watch it unfold. Lucian entered, looking older, thinner, his suit ill-fitting. He barely glanced at me before addressing Tessa. "Ms. Stone, I've reviewed your offer. I'm ready to accept the settlement." "Excellent," she said, sliding a thick document toward him. "Please read carefully before signing." The irony wasn't lost on me. My son, once so sure he was smarter than his old father, was about to repeat my mistake. But Lucian was already flipping pages, hunting for the signature line. "This protects me from criminal charges, right?" he asked. "Once signed, this agreement resolves all matters between the parties," Tessa replied smoothly. True enough, though not how Lucian understood it. He signed quickly, page after page, not reading a word, just as I once trusted him. "There," he said, shoving the papers aside. "We're done. Charges dropped. I pay what I owe. Fair enough." It was the first time I'd spoken since he walked in. "You think you're clever, don't you, son? Think you outsmarted the old man?" He finally met my eyes. "Dad, I'm sorry about Dubai, but this fixes everything. We can move past this." "You learned manipulation from somewhere, Lucian. Ever wonder where?" Tessa cleared her throat. "Mr. Creed," she said to him, "perhaps I should clarify what you've just signed." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "This isn't simple repayment," she said evenly. "You've agreed to pay 15% of your gross income for 5 years to a fund for victims of financial fraud." Lucian blinked, stunned. "What? No, that's not." What he frantically flipped through the pages, he'd ignored his face draining of color. 15% of gross income, Tessa continued. Before taxes, before deductions. If you earn 60,000, you pay 9,000. If you earn 100, you pay 15. Every year for 5 years. "This is fraud. You tricked me." Tessa's tone sharpened. "Like you tricked your father. You signed a legally binding contract, clearly advised to read before signing. That's not fraud. It's consequence." Lucian turned to me desperate. "Dad, you can't do this. I'm your son." "You were my son in Dubai too," I said. "Didn't stop you from calling me an old fool and stealing my house." I was desperate. The business collapsed. I had debts. And I would have helped if you'd asked. But you didn't ask. You stole and left me stranded in a foreign country. Tessa gathered the signed pages. "Your first payment is due in 30 days. The agreement includes your written confession, so any default leads directly to prosecution." Lucian slumped in disbelief, realizing too late that his plan to avoid justice had trapped him in something far worse. "You set me up," he muttered bitterly. I met his eyes. "No, son, I taught you a lesson. The same one you taught me in Dubai trust can be a weapon, and family can be the cruelest enemy." I paused. "But there's another truth. Actions have consequences, and stealing from family carries the worst of them." Rising from my chair, I felt lighter than I had in months. "Enjoy writing those checks, son. Every month for the next 60, you'll remember what you did. As I stepped out of that conference room, I finally understood what justice felt like. It felt like coming home. 2 weeks after the confrontation in the conference room, I found myself in a very different meeting, this time at the Minneapolis Community Center, surrounded by people who knew what betrayal felt like. Tessa introduced the group. The Elias Creed Fund for Fraud Victims, funded entirely by restitution payments from financial crime cases. Our goal is to help victims rebuild and prevent others from falling into the same traps. At the folding table sat Mrs. Thompson, 83, whose grandson had stolen her retirement savings for cryptocurrency, 71-year-old Mr. Anderson, left penniless and with a leaking roof after a home repair scam, and 58-year-old Sarah Walushins, who'd been deceived by her business partner. We're not just victims, I told them. We're survivors, and we'll make sure others don't learn these lessons the hard way. That Tuesday, the fund received its first payment, a certified check for $1,247.50 and a letter I nearly didn't open. I know this can't undo what I did, Dad. I took more than money. I took your trust and sense of safety. I'll spend every month trying to earn the right to be your son again. Lucian. I read it twice before putting it away. Words were easy. The truth would lie in the 59 checks still to come. The fund grew quickly. Restitution payments from other lawsuits helped us expand. Within 2 months, we were aiding 12 families, offering legal guidance, emergency aid, and most importantly, a place where no one had to justify being deceived. At one meeting, Mrs. Thompson said softly, "You know the hardest part. It's not losing the money. It's feeling stupid for trusting someone you loved." "That's not stupid," I replied. "That's human. The fault lies with those who exploit trust, not those who give it." 3 months after Dubai, I was living in a modest apartment near the center, spending my days helping others recover from betrayal. It wasn't the retirement I planned, but it was one I needed. Walter often visited with coffee and neighborhood gossip. One afternoon, watching teenagers play basketball, he said, "You seem different, happier, more purposeful." He was right. The anger that had driven me through the court battle had been replaced by the quiet fulfillment of turning pain into purpose. "I keep thinking about what I told Lucian," I said. "That family can be the cruelest enemy." "But that's not true." "How so?" Walter asked. "Family is just people. Some choose cruelty. Others choose kindness. Lucian chose the first, but that doesn't define family. It defines him." Just then, my phone buzzed with a message from Sarah Walusians. "Elias the Fund helped me get a lawyer. We got our money back. Thank you." I showed it to Walter. This is what family really looks like, people showing up for each other even when they're strangers. I had lost my son, my house, and my savings, but I had gained something far more valuable, a community built on empathy, resilience, and trust. And I'd learned that the best way to heal from betrayal isn't revenge, it's helping others avoid the same pain. 6 months after Dubai, my routine had become a calling. Monday through Friday, I helped people with fraud and betrayal paperwork at the community center. Evenings were spent in my apartment reading letters from those the Elias Creed Fund had helped people rebuilding their lives. The fund had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. $127,000 distributed, 47 families supported, and a waiting list that reminded me how many still needed, not just financial help, but understanding. "Elias, you have a video call," Tessa said. "Someone from Dubai." Ahmed's familiar face appeared on screen, older, but with the same kind eyes that had once steadied me. "My friend," he said, "you look well. Happy even." "I'm Ahmed, thanks to you." "No," he smiled. "Thanks to you. You turned pain into purpose. I only made a call." I told him about the fund, the families we'd helped, and how Lucian's payments were now doing good. Ahmed listened with the same quiet patience he'd shown in that Dubai hotel. "This is beautiful," he said. "You took your pain and made it medicine for others." After we ended the call, I looked around the bustling community center. Mrs. Thompson teaching computer skills to seniors, Sarah Walushins leading a fraud recovery group, Mr. Anderson helping a young couple after a contractor scam. After losing my old home, I had found another. That afternoon, the monthly report arrived. As always, Lucian's payment was on time, but this time there was a letter. "I know you probably don't read these, Dad, but I got a job with a nonprofit in Seattle teaching seniors about financial literacy. It doesn't pay much, but it feels right. Like maybe I can stop someone else from doing what I did. I'm in therapy now, learning why I put money above family. I want to be someone you can be proud of again. Maybe someday." I reread it twice before doing something I'd never done before. I wrote back. I'm glad you're getting help, Lucian. Thank you for trying to keep others from repeating your mistakes. True change isn't just saying I'm sorry, but proving it. Keep going, Dad. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was hope. That evening, Walter and I sat on the steps of the center watching the sunset paint Minneapolis in gold. Any regrets, he asked. About what? Dubai, the lawsuits, trading retirement for this. I thought for a moment. I lost a house, my savings, my security, even my relationship with Lucian. But I found something I didn't know I'd lost: purpose, community, and the understanding that trust isn't weakness, just something to handle with care. And Lucian, he made his choice. Now he's making better ones. That's all any of us can do. A young woman approached, papers in hand. Mr. Creed, I was scammed by a contractor. Someone said you could help. I stood and smiled. I'm Elias, and yes, we can help. That's what we do here. Ahmed's words echoed in my mind. You took your pain and turned it into medicine for others. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you leads to the best thing you'll ever do. Losing everything can reveal what truly matters and even teach you how to heal. If this trip has taught me anything, it's that betrayal stories like mine are more about decision than retaliation. You have the option of becoming resentful or improving when a loved one betrays your trust. God made it possible for me to see past my rage. I could have given up while I was sitting by myself in that hotel room in Dubai. However, the Lord uses enigmatic means, and Ahmed and Angel served as a reminder that there is still goodness in the world. And God gave me Walter Tessa, and ultimately a purpose greater than my suffering when I needed the strength to fight back. These internet grandpa tales frequently conclude with the elderly person being vanquished, forgotten, or ignored by ungrateful kids. However, I want every parent and grandfather who is watching to realize that they are not helpless. Being older makes you more experienced, not weaker. And faith-driven experience has the power to move mountains. My tale of betrayal turned into a narrative of recovery. Even the heartbreaking things your grandfather tells you can serve as the basis for something lovely. Instead of wasting our pain, God uses it to give us courage, insight, and the capacity to support those who share our dark journey. The fund keeps expanding, families keep getting better, and my son is still learning what it means to be forgiven someplace in Seattle. Trust is faith, not folly. Furthermore, trust can be strengthened even after it has been damaged. Tell me about yourself. Have you experienced treachery from family? Leave a comment below about your experience. It might be just what someone else needs to hear today. If this story touched you, please share it with someone who needs hope and subscribe to our channel. Together we may find meaning in our suffering.